Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. So today I'm so excited to talk to you because I got to go to a record fair over the weekend and I hadn't been to a record fair. I've only been to one before and I haven't been able to record shop in a long time. And I'll be honest with you, what little times I've gotten to go to record stores, the inventory was pretty dried up and it just wasn't a great selection. But that was not the case at the record fair I went to this past weekend. I happen to be in Kentucky right now instead of Florida, and Owensboro, Kentucky had their first annual Romp and Roll Record Show. It's in conjunction with what they call Romp. It's a music festival that goes on for a few days. I'd never attended Romp. For one, it's always in the heat of the summer, very, very hot. And there's only one time I've regretted not going, and that was when Alison Krauss was the headliner. I wish I had went that year. But anyway, I hope this is the beginning of something very, very special for Owensboro, Kentucky. Kentucky, in certain areas of Kentucky, it's a little bit of a desert when it comes to vinyl records. Owensboro is definitely on that list. You know, Louisville, they got some cool records. Owensboro, it's pretty tough to get great records in Owensboro, Kentucky. But for this weekend, wow. And it was so much fun. I got to meet amazing dealers. I got to talk to a lot of great people. And I got to see a lot of amazing records. And my husband came along with me. Bless his heart. I was digging through records. I knew I had been there a while. And he came up to me, he said, "Do you know how long we've been here?" And I kind of stopped and I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, oh my gosh, Philip, I'm so sorry. I bet we've been here for almost 2 hours, you know. I knew it had been a long time. He goes, "No, we've been here for 4.5 hours. I couldn't believe it. Just felt like time had flown by, digging through records, talking to people. He wasn't complaining. He was just pointing out the fact that he's not a record collector and he had been there for 4.5 hours, which is really insane. So hats off to my husband for putting up with me and for going there and being there for 4.5 hours. I would say if you are a newer collector, you're wanting to get the staples, the Fleetwood Macs, the Rush albums, a lot of things that are hard to find at normal record stores these days. I mean, the staple records were plentiful, they were affordable, and these record dealers were ready to roll. I heard multiple times, if you buy more than one record, if you're paying cash, I can deal with you, you know, well, we can deal, you know. So that was really, really cool. For people like me who have all of the staples and I'm a little more picky about what I'm buying, it was a little more of a challenge because these Grail records that are extremely hard to get your hands on are really out of reach for a lot of us now, and me included, because some of the prices were so outrageous. So I want to say, though, there were some records there that are a piece of history. I don't know what they're worth, but I know they're worth a lot. So asking prices on those were understandable. One in particular was a copy of Bob Dylan's first album, and it was a 6i Columbia white label promo. We're talking about a promotional copy of Bob Dylan's first record. I don't know how you put a price on that. That's a treasure. I'll never hold that one in my hands again. And it was $1,500. I don't know if that's a right price or not. I just know that that's an important piece of history. And if you are just a collector of vintage anything, that one would be one to have. It was very, very cool to just be able to see it. Beatles Butcher album covers were also around the room. I never saw one for under $1,000, $1,200. $1,400, $1,800. I did not know that the second state Beatles Butcher covers, I didn't see any of the first states. I didn't know that the second state covers were getting that expensive. And maybe they aren't. Maybe these dealers maybe it's their own personal copies. They put a price on what they're willing to part with them for. And if no one wants to buy them, oh well, they'll keep them in their own collection. I don't really know how that goes. But I was surprised to see the Second State Butcher albums, mono, not stereo, be over $1,000. That surprised me. There was a very cool 45 of Dark Side of the Moon. It was one that was just sent as a radio promotional copy in mono of just select songs from that album, shortened. I've never seen anything like that before, and I thought it was really cool too. There were just some amazing records. The Robert Ludwig hot mix of Led Zeppelin 2. I didn't see one for under $400. I did not know that record was that expensive now either. That really surprised me. So maybe I got there a little later and did not see the lower priced ones. Maybe they sold immediately. I have no idea. I just know that that was very expensive. And a Led Zeppelin 2 Mobile Fidelity record. I would love to have that one in my collection. That would be a cool record to find. But they wanted $350 for the copy they had. So that was a no-go for me as well. Having said that, I found 3 amazing records that were something I wanted to have in my collection. I consider Grails and a couple nostalgic records that I want to talk about too. And I found them at what I call affordable prices. I'm not saying dirt cheap, but affordable prices. Also, I just want to point out, in one of the booths, they had this Rhino Black Sabbath record. I haven't even had time to listen to my copy yet. They wanted $150 for it, and it just sold out at $40. That's a huge markup, in my opinion. Now, I will say, I understand dealers have a right to ask whatever they want. And if a buyer's willing to pay it, that's what it's worth, you know? We recently sold our house here in Kentucky for asking price. The people who paid asking price, I didn't go back and say, oh, no, you deserve a cheaper price. Here's what my house, I'll sell it to you for. No, I took the asking price. So I get it. I understand that you can ask what you want for something, and if someone is willing to pay it, then that's the price it's worth, at least to that person. So let me show you the Grails that I was able to get that I'm very excited for. First off, I found this. This is School's Out. It is a first pressing. It's Alice Cooper. So, I mean, you can imagine this is a common record, but you know what's uncommon? To find a copy that still has, I can't believe I'm even saying this on my channel, the panties. It's very hard to find. This came out in the early 70s. This one still had the blue panties. You can find them in white. You can find them in pink. I wanted the blue ones. If you look carefully, I bought this strictly for the panties, got a good price, was very excited. The record, I kind of inspected the condition, but I didn't remove the panties because I was afraid they would disintegrate. But when I got home, I started looking more closely. Look at this. This is supposed to have an army green record label. So I carefully kind of pulled it down, you know. It is a white label promo. I didn't even know it was a white label promo when I bought it. So it's missing the report card, but I've always wanted to have that particular Alice Cooper record with the blue panties. I know I feel weird saying that on my channel, but it was just something I've always wanted to have, just a little piece of history. I love that these old records, they were so creative. They came up with all of these cool concepts, whether it was posters, stickers, something novelty like that was just extremely cool. Here's another really great record that I found. Now, it was advertised when I bought it as a first pressing of Rush. It was a U.S. copy. You know, I know there is a more expensive record on a different label. I believe Rush is spelled in red instead of this beautiful hot pink. I've always been a big fan of this cover. And this was just clean as a whistle. I was very impressed by the cleanliness of the album cover, as well as the record itself on this Mercury Skyscraper label. It was described as a first pressing, but once I got it home, from what I can tell, it is a reissue from 1981 or so. It's got Keel, Keel, in the dead wax. So I'm assuming that's what that is. You know, shame on me for not taking the time and just taking their word for it. I should have taken that record out, looked at the dead wax, put it in and figured out for myself exactly what it was. So shame on me. I should have done my due diligence. Having said that, it's an extremely clean copy of that record. It's over 40 years old, and it wasn't expensive. So I'm happy to have it. I have no complaints. And it's not my favorite Rush album anyway. It's a cool one to have, though. Now, this was the huge Grail that I picked up. It's one I've been wanting to add to my collection again for a very long time. And I saw this particular record back when I went to Expona back in April. The same couple who was at this record show was also at Expona. I saw this particular record on their like holy moly wall of display where they have their Heat records, and when I got there and looked, it wasn't up on their shelving. So I made the comment to them. I was looking through the records and I said, there was a record you all had at Expona, no doubt it sold out a long time ago. And they're like, well, what did you want? And I told them what it was, and they said, well, look through. And they pointed towards the audiophile section, which I hadn't even gotten to yet. It might still be in there, and it was. And we were able to negotiate on a price. And so now I have Wish You Were Here. This is the 1982 version. It is the CBS half-speed mastered version. And there's some controversy I don't really know a lot about. There is one that came out in 1980. This one came out in 1982. Some people would argue that this is the better pressing because they made some kind of mistake on the 1980 version. It wasn't the half-speed mastered process. I don't really know. If you know the details, leave in the comments below because I would love to hear the full story. But I picked up this 1982 version and it is just beautifully clean, not a crease, not a water spot, not any kind of discoloration. It's beautiful and crisp white. Also, the vinyl itself. And I expect most of these audiophile records from back in the day were bought and purchased by people who actually took very good care of the record. So seeing this in this beautiful of a condition, not a mark on it, flawless, that's not that surprising. It even came with the original sleeve. You know, you can still see where the sticker was, and that original sticker here. And also the introducing the CBS Master Sound series where you could read what they were all about. This record sounds absolutely wonderful. This is the people who sold it to me. Picture Sleeve 45s, that's what the bag says. I'm assuming that's their company, and they go from record show to record show and sell a lot of records. And they were very, very kind to me. Now, the 1982 CBS Master Sound version of Wish You Were Here sounds like an absolute dream. All I have is the more recent reissue, and I haven't done a blind test, but I could already tell without just doing a side-by-side comparison that I prefer this version of it. David Gilmour's guitar just absolutely sounds fantastic and alive and punchy. Roger Waters sounds more present in his singing, and there were literally details I've never heard before that I noticed on this version. So, you know, those CBS Master Sound records, they're not always the best or even close to the best. I think for now, that's my definitive copy of Wish You Were Here. I'm not saying it's the definitive copy overall. If you can find a still sealed copy of a first pressing, I'm sure that would be even better. But I'm very, very pleased now, and I love that I picked that one up. Here are a couple of nostalgic pickups. Dick Clark's National Music Survey. I love this cover, has like Rod Stewart, Stevie Nicks, Hall & Oates, Sheena Easton, Mick Jagger. It's really cool. Now, this is a year-end countdown. December 1st, 1984, Dick Clark was going over the biggest artists of that year. So there was really cool music I got to hear from Van Halen, Jump, Panama, I'll Wait, David Lee Roth. There was a clip of an interview he did, which kind of is telling of what is to come with the split between Van Halen and David Lee Roth. He talks about how 1984 was all about synthesizers and how the music label wanted to sound a little more like Journey or something, kind of a little diss towards Journey from David Lee Roth. It was an interesting little bite, and now that we know the rest of the story, it fits in perfectly with what was going on. So it was Van Halen, Tina Turner, The Cars, Bruce Springsteen. There were all kinds of amazing artists. The top 10 of that year, according to Dick Clark's National Music Survey. And also, I picked up March 16th, 1985, and this is just a regular listening. It was the hits of that week. The number one song was Can't Fight This Feeling by REO Speedwagon. California Girls by David Lee Roth was up there. Lover Girl by Tina Marie. Relax by Frankie and Goes to Hollywood. It's really a great set of songs. They play the original commercials that I still remember from listening. And you know, these Dick Clark National Music Surveys and the Casey Kasem's American Top 40s, they bring back wonderful memories. I just don't know if there's a better feeling than being a kid Sunday night in the summertime when you know you don't have to get up and go to school Monday morning and you can stay up late. I would listen to the Dick Clark National Music Survey, stay up late. Sometimes I would turn on the TV and watch old Twilight Zone reruns. It's the best feeling in the world. And, you know, this was one I was showing with from 1984. I'm actually wearing a Panama Jack t-shirt right now. I found one recently. It instantly brought me back to 1984. These Panama Jack t-shirts with the guy on the back of the shirt were so huge at that time. I love just remembering all of the good stuff. You know, I am much a person who lives in the moment, but I also love looking forward to the future. And I love looking back and remembering the good times from my childhood. And music was such a huge part of that. Now 2015, this one from 1985. 1985 music, and past that, 1986, 87, 88. They had a lot of those Dick Clark National Music Surveys from those later times. I did not want any of those because, to be honest with you, around the 1984 era and the early 80s and the 70s, once it got into 1985, like Can't Fight This Feeling, for example, that's when REO Speedwagon really diminished in my eyes. Foreignish started putting out I Want to Know What Love Is, and we had the Belinda Carlisle come out. We had just music that I wasn't as into, and that's where I kind of made my leap into what we now lovingly call hair bands. I got into a heavier rock sound. I've still loved my Van Halen, but the music on the radio just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And I know there's exceptions, but I just wasn't getting into those later 80s songs on the radio. And I just kind of turned all that stuff off after that. So, wow, what great times though. And it's so wonderful to reminisce, listen to Dick Clark when he was still on top of his game. And I just really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed the record fair. So let me know in the comments of a Grail you would be looking for, how you feel about record fairs and the prices for some of these records nowadays. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, the notification bell. I also want to say a special thank you to a viewer of mine who is also a very good friend, Mike from Nebraska. He sent this record my way. June was my birthday month, and he sent this record as a birthday present. It is Booker T and the MGs, Macklemore Avenue. Thank you, Mike. And thanks again for everyone for watching my channel. And I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.